Hey everyone, this is Ian with Big Rock Adventure. I wanted to talk a little bit about why I sold my KTM 690 Enduro R. So if you watch my review of the 690, you know that I really spoke highly of the bike. And it was really an honest review. I really did like the motorcycle. My goal with the 690 was sort of to find a bike that was part dirt bike and part street bike that could do a little bit of both. And what I found was that while it was really a great bike, it had a few things that really for me prevented it from kind of being that unicorn bike. I touched on some of these things in my 690 review, but I wanted to go over them again and just tell you kind of why I decided to move on from the 690 platform. So the first thing was that the vibration of the bike. So you've probably read and heard other people talk about the vibration issues with the 690 motor. And while it's an amazing engine producing almost 70 horsepower, it does have a lot of vibration coming through the handlebars of the motorcycle. And it's not a big issue unless you're riding a lot at highway speeds. So the vibrations on the 690 become a problem really above like 65 miles an hour. So freeway speed, 75, 80, the bike kind of felt like it just wanted to fly apart. And so the vibration was a big issue. I tried to address it with the BRP sub mount with a rubber mount. I'll put a picture up here below. And I also did the gel grips, and I even did flex bars. And even with all that, those things helped a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. So the vibration was one big downfall of the bike. The second thing I want to talk about is sort of amenities and comfort. So I don't expect, an off-road focused bike to really be comfortable, but it was hard to get enough wind protection on that bike to really be effective. I had the KTM windshield, which gave me some, and then I was faced with, if I wanted more wind protection, getting the huge rally setup, which was, you're getting into thousands of dollars with that. So that was kind of an issue. Another thing that the 690 really could do better is the gearbox. And I don't mean how it shifts smoothly, but there's not enough spacing between the gears. So in other words, first gear is kind of high for off-road, and sixth gear is kind of too low for highway cruising. So your RPM is a little bit too high out on the freeway or on the highway. I feel like if they spaced out the gearbox more, that they would have a much better all-around bike. And I don't really understand why they don't do that. And I don't think they've updated that for 2019. So that was another thing with the 690 that I was having trouble with. The other thing is that while I said the suspension is pretty good, and it is pretty good for a stock motorcycle, it's not quite up to the level of some of the newer bikes. So for instance, in 2019, KTM updated the 690 and gave it the WP Explorer suspension, which was a lot better. I could talk about fuel range. I mean, 3.2 gallons, not that great. I know I mentioned in my review carrying a Rotopacks. They make an underseat tank, which works really well. My friend Dave has that, but that's a $400 or $500 option. So that was there, but that wasn't too big of a factor. But overall, I just didn't feel that the 690 was really delivering for me as an all-around bike. As a dirt bike, it's a little bit too big and heavy. It's like 310 pounds, which puts it on the heavier side for kind of an off-road bike if you compare it to a 500 EXC or a Husky 501 or something like that. And then on the street bike end, while it was fun in the canyons and things like that, it's not really enough of a street bike with the single cylinder, with the vibration issues, with the comfort issues I mentioned. It just feels really wrung out on the highway, so it wasn't quite good enough on the street. So I find the 690 kind of too much in the middle, if that makes any sense. So just trying to wrap this up with my thoughts, I really did like the 690. I think one question is, would I consider getting a 2019 model? The 2019 model looks really good to me, I have to be honest, because they've put in the newer engine, which has another balancer shaft, I believe, to make it much smoother. It has more power. They've given it more fuel capacity. They've updated the electronics. They've restyled the bike. So would I consider getting a new 690? Yeah, I might consider it. I wish they had done something to make the gears wider ratio, but the smoother engine is a big deal, and the additional power is really nice. But I still am not convinced that I want to go back to that one bike kind of deal where it's trying to be a dirt bike and a street bike all in one. I'm not convinced that I want to do that. I'll have another video on comparing the 690 to the 500 EXC because I've had both, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in a few days.